Hello, and welcome back to the Finntegration Society. My name is Dale, and I am an immigrant. Today, we are going to integrate, excuse me, what's the word I'm looking for? Inaugurate the new studio setup that I have here today. I have changed everything around for a sort of a podcast setup, and I'm going to begin. So, I've changed the setup, and I'm going to begin a series of interviews with both migrants and native citizens of Finland, native born people, and I'm going to get some opinions on what they think about immigrants. And that's going to be an interesting one. It's going to have some touchy subjects in it, so don't miss that one. That's going to be in a week or two. But we'll have our native give his opinion. And I'm also going to go to a new format here where I seem to work better with some sort of structure than with none, but then the scripted format is a little bit too much as well. So anyway, I'm going to work from an outline, and then we also have our uh, studio webcam set up for hosts and so on. And let's see where to begin. Today's episode is called. This is also a sound check and light check for issues, so I'll edit those out if I see them. Sorry about those, folks. The question is, last week or a couple weeks ago, I said that it was a good time to leave the US and why I left the US, and I told that little story that I had. And I think people found that interesting, and it is. And the thing about it being interesting is that there's nothing unique about it. That my story, my same story has been told, as far as men are concerned, a million times over, 10 million times over in the last 5, 10, 15 years. And there's a lot of manosphere type channels, or men's channels, I should say, men oriented, men focused channels that you'll find on YouTube and other places where they specifically address men's issues. But only a few of them really kind of dive deep in and address specifically the big picture issues that affect men, especially young men. Which brought me to the title of this episode, of course, which is Men Should Leave the US, specifically men, and why and how. Top of the list has obviously got to be that there is no future for the male gender. Hate to put it that way, but realistically, the more you look at the numbers, here's the question you got to ask yourself. You're a young man, you're 23 years old, you're 24, maybe you worked in some trades, or maybe you've done some education, you've got some work experience by now. Just ask yourself this: is your life any better today than it was 5 years ago? Has it really improved? Is your hard work and your grind, is it paying off for you? Do you have uh, assets to your name? Have you got yourself into some property? Or, is just life is just rosy and golden? Or is it going the other way? Is it not so rosy and golden? And not only that, but you look at the people, you look at your big brothers or your uncles and your aunts or whatever have you above you in the generation above you, and they're all telling you the same thing, right? They're saying, look at my life, look at what a wreck of a devastation that it has become because of this issue or that issue or the other issue. And of course, we're not going to go into all the issues here today, but if you're a young man and you're not better off today than you were 5 years ago, and you've been working your butt off, and your older brothers and relatives and cousins and fathers and uncles are telling you the same story, why would we all sit here and lie to our younger brothers? Why would we not want to pull them up and tell them the truth and help them? Because that's what men do. Men share knowledge and wisdom and experience and so on. So, with that said, if you're watching any kind of Manosphere channels, I want to recommend one called Legion of Men. Here is sponsored by, or actually run by a guy named Bo. He has a lot of, I should say, hard to swallow information, hard to swallow intellectual nutrition, if you will, for especially for men who aren't quite ready to accept the truth. And the truth is of course, personal responsibility. A lot of men aren't that in that point in their life where they can say, yeah, it's my fault. Yes, I need to do better. Excuse me, which is ironically what a lot of women are saying or have been saying about men for the longest time. So what did we do? We went out and we took their advice, right? We went out, we took their advice, and we got better. We got on our grind. We worked our butts off. We focused on our bodies. We hit the gym. You know, we're stacking our cash. We're doing all the things that women supposedly said that they wanted us to do, and we're doing it. But the point of the of my channel, of course, is the Finntegration Society is about immigrating to Finland. But as I've told everyone before, a couple times now, the EU is I believe it's 26 members now that Great Britain has bailed out. There is, I believe there are 11 of those states, member states, have immigration by ancestry or descent, which means, in a short story, if you have verifiable ancestry from this country or that country, X country, again, verifiable is the key. If you have that, you can get a residence permit in a very short period of time, accelerated period of time. There's no work requirement. There's no income requirement typically beyond your expenses and so on while you process. You'll be granted a work permit. You'll be granted a healthcare card. And this goes for any of the countries that I'm talking about on my list, any single one of them. So if you have Polish descent, if you have, I didn't check them all, but I'm pretty sure, I think Romania might be one of them. I know that Finland is, of course, but again, there's a whole long list of it. I'll post it. I'll post a list that I have actually on this video. So check the description if you want to see a list of the 10 countries besides Finland that offers what I'm talking about, young man. Because I want you to do better for yourselves, and you're not going to do it. Take my word for it. Take the word from many other content creators here on YouTube telling you the same story. Why would we lie? How could we possibly benefit from you not succeeding in life? It makes no sense at all. So again, this is the first run through here, live run through on the new podcast setup, and there's space for a guest right next to me here, and we're recording on two channels for audio. We're also recording on two cameras for video, and we have monitoring ability. And now, not that I'm a big fan of the monitoring thing. I don't know if you're doing a lot of external input on your sound. I suppose it helps to know that. We know what you're hearing and so forth, but it never really bothers me. So you're 22, you're 25, you're in the U.S., you've been working your butt off, you're getting your grind on, and you're realizing you're not going anywhere. You just know that. You can see it in the future. Say, well, what do you do? Well, I'm telling you what others are telling you. You got to get yourself together, but you're not going to do it in the United States. You're not going to ever be able to keep up with the price inflation of housing. You're not going to be able to get to that point where you're ahead of the game. You're always going to be swimming just to stay in the same place and swimming hard. Now, the exceptions to that is some of the people that I know that have made their way up the so-called property ladder. The way they've done that is they've had a leg up, as my friend used to say. They had parents or grandparents or someone gave them the what they call the boost to enable them to get in when the getting was good. And for those people, hey, if you've got yours, then what I'm saying is falling on deaf ears to you. Obviously, if you don't have yours, that's the bottom line. If you don't have yours, then you should be paying attention to me, a lot of attention. And I keep saying, again, Finland is known as one of the most expensive countries in the EU. It's not the most expensive. I think there's one or two ahead of on the list. But nevertheless, you can still buy a house here for 100,000 euro, a decent place. It's not going to be grandiose or, on the lake or whatever, but it'll be nice. It'll be comfortable and you'll be yours. And you can pay it off and you'll own it before you die. And you can give it to your kids with no mortgage. You can establish a legacy of property, excuse me, property and family and everything else back home in Finland and in other EU countries. That's one of the major reasons. You right now, if you're except for a very few states, you've been working all your life under what's called at will employment. And basically, all that ever does for you is mean that your employers can fire you whenever they feel like it. What it really means is fire at will. And if you believe that it's something else, if you've been convinced that it's something else by whoever, I don't know, you haven't been paying attention. It means fire at will. It means you have no work protections. If you come to work and you're wearing a t-shirt that your boss doesn't like, they're having a bad day, they can say, go to your locker, get your stuff, get out of here, you're done. And if you're in the United States, what happens? What just happened to your health insurance? Where did that go? What if you have a little newborn baby in the house? What happens now? What happens to your life? So what? You had a whole bunch of money saved up and you thought you were on your grind and you were doing good. Now what? You gonna bootstrap yourself up when you don't have no boots? Come on. It's just not possible. And until the state shows an interest, the state shows a desire to do something for the little people. That's you and me, by the way. Until they show a desire to do something like that, why do you want to sacrifice your whole life? Why would you do that? Why would you spend 20, 30, 40 years basically grinding away strictly for the purpose of existing and nothing else? It makes no sense. You want a life, you want a family, you want a future, you want to own a piece of land, you want to have a house in the country, you want simple things. I get it. You're just not going to get that in the United States, young man. Listen to me, listen to the other men on the Manosphere channels, especially telling you you're not going to make a good family in the United States. You're not going to find what you're looking for. You need to get out. And here I'm going to tell you here's how you do it. As I said, you check my list of 11 countries. You go and you ask your mom and dad or your grandparents. You pull out the old family tree, heritage book, whatever it is you got to do, and you figure out if you have a parent or a grandparent who is or was a citizen by birth in one of those countries on that list. And if that's the case, chances are you can very reasonably, if you're a do-it-yourself kind of person, you can do it yourself. You can go to the websites, you can fill out the paperwork, you can do what you need to do. It is kind of a difficult process, but the ancestry, the descent is the key. And if you have that, you go as far as the line is concerned. If the country has a line, you're going to go right to the head of that line. My application was actually processed in 7 months. So from the time I went in person to the migri office here in Finland, paid my fee, interviewed with the representative till I got my healthcare card and my residency card in the mail was 7 months. That didn't seem like too long of a time. Now I know there's people that wait for years, but after that amount of time, now you have a work permit, you have a universal health care, you're good. You can relax. You can start to build, and whatever you build, if you get hurt, you break your leg, whatever it is, you're not going to lose everything that you've saved, that you've worked for, just because you got hurt. The medical bankruptcy is not a thing in the EU. It's just unheard of. And if you're in the United States right now, you're living in a country where a significant portion of the bankruptcies are medical. You get $15,000 worth of medical bills. You can't even pay the other bills in your house that you already have, and they want you to pay 15,000 worth of medical bills. Come on, get real. And no sponsorship involved here unless Rainbow wants to. You can always send me some more if you want. It's all right. I won't say no. Really, a half liter of diet soda for these are 65 cents at Prisma. I believe it is 65 cents. That one up there, green screen, you are going to be kind of in your face guest cam. And also, the green screen, all this green screen is going to be the guest little banner or whatever they want to put up. So I'll see how that works. So we'll have two different artificial backgrounds. It's going to be kind of cool, I think. Let's move on to my next point. So you got to get your passport. You got to get your passport. That's just step one. Step one. Step one. If you can do that before you have researched your genealogy or your ancestry, it doesn't matter. But you got to get your passport. You just send them the $300, go drive and do what you got to do, make the appointment at the post office, whatever the heck it is, pay the money, get your passport. It takes a few months, but you're not going anywhere until you get it. You're not going anywhere until you get it, and once you have it, you can go anywhere with it. So again, step one, get the passport. Like everyone else has been telling you on the Manosphere, get your passport. Oh yeah, and if you have a specific country in mind that you want to go to, or that you're capable of going to, and here's another thing, you can use a kind of a two-step process for migration. You can get your foot in the door, so to speak, with the country of your ancestry, of your origin. But once you have permanent residency and or citizenship in any EU country, you're free to travel and reside in between all the others as well. So like a lot of Finns have, they'll spend half the year in another country. Some of them go to Italy, some go to Spain, some go to Greece, some go to Turkey. Is Turkey in the EU? I don't think Turkey's in the EU, but I know Finns spend a lot of time. There's a lot of Finns who talk about Turkey because everything's close. I mean, why, if you're living in the US right now, you're living half a life. Young men, you listen to listen to your elders tell you over and over and over again. Take a trip before you get your feet wet in the ocean, before you decide, hey, I'm gonna uproot my whole life and do what these guys are saying and change, make a change. Take a trip. Take a 2-week trip to the motherland. Go home to Germany or wherever it is you're from, Poland, Romania, Italy, Spain. I think all those are on that list of 10. I'm not sure, but double check it. Finland's on the list. Go home. Look up your relatives, look up your culture, and see what your blood tells you to do. Because as they say, home is where the heart is. My heart wasn't in, excuse me, my heart wasn't in the US for the longest time. Yeah, I wasn't feeling it. There's being in an abusive, as they say, abusive relationship, and that's the kind of relationship most Americans have with their government, especially men. And I don't want to go too far down a rabbit hole, but the westernized woman, specifically from the United States, they have, to be fair and gentle, they have unrealistic expectations of what a man should be and what a man should bring to the table, and they all want the same impossibly high standard of a man when they themselves are not bringing uh, that impossibly high standard, as many other the master creators are saying. If men got up and said, "Hey, I need a supermodel who makes $1 million a year and who has no kids and has a body count under 5," and just came out with this impossibly long list of expectations, they'd be crowned as some kind of terrible. Um, I'm not even going to say any of the words that I've heard that are, not a feminist, or should I say, person. And that's not who any of us are. We're all in favor of everyone doing their best in life and succeeding in life. But I think men are a little bit more realistic when it comes to that. I think a man can be happy with an average woman, a real average woman who loves him and cares for him. And I just don't think women are anymore. I think they all feel that they are worthy of and they deserve a 5% man. And even if that's true, ladies, I mean, let's just accept reality for a moment. Even if that's true, that means 95% of you are going to have to do without a man, right? Realistically, 95% of you will have to do without a man because you're unwilling to accept anything but a top 5%. And that's fine. That's why young men in the United States and young men throughout the world are just saying, "Hey, there's no woman who wants me." And here's another little eye opener for ladies, especially you don't know this or you may not know this. Men don't want to be settled for. No, they don't want to be settled for. They'd rather be alone than be settled for. So if in your heart you are looking for the man that you are now wanting to settle for, just forget it. Give it up. It's not going to work for you or them. And again, I think men would rather be alone and they would rather go their own way. whatever you want to call it. They'd rather stack their cash, get their grind on, whatever it is, but that's what they're doing. And gentlemen, I cannot encourage you enough. I'm going to link a couple of videos in the description. One of them from Legion of Men. You can look into some of the reasons why men, especially, as a topic of this episode is, of course, men are finding a lot more happiness in the EU. The general overall level of stress that you will not feel, just stress. Once you start unloading all the stress off your back, you will find yourself in a much better position as far as dealing with the rest of the actual real problems in your life, like a career and a family and all that stuff. Once you have figured out you can live on whatever salary you're making, you have a decent job and you have healthcare benefits and you have a work-life balance, you have all the things that you didn't have in the United States. Once you realize you have those things here, then you'll be able to relax and you'll be able to start working on the other things you're trying to build. So let's see, what else did I not cover? So you got to get your passport, you got to research your family history. One of the last thing you want to do is start working on your language skills. If you know which country you're going to go to, if you've got your ducks in a row, you're lined up to do that, you want to start learning the language. Can't stress it enough, especially if it's a tough one like Finnish. Finnish is difficult. It's going to be something you're going to have to work on. Swedish is not as difficult, from what I understand. The Romance languages aren't too difficult. If you have some Spanish or Italian or French going on, German, I understand, is not as difficult as Finnish. But the number one piece of advice right now, especially with the anti-immigrant attitude, I don't know if people have noticed it, but the European nations are starting to get cranky about immigration, and I don't want the kind of immigrants that I'm talking about, the immigrants based on citizenship by residency or descent. I don't want them to get wrapped up in the same bag and labeled the same as some of these immigrants that are coming the to countries in the EU from other countries in the world. Those people that have no intention of integrating, they have no intention of fitting in, no intention of developing it, the culture, the language, or learning the history. They just don't care. I have no connection or desire or interest in those kinds of immigrants either. What I am encouraging people who have actual ancestral roots in the EU to come home. There's no better time. You are needed. You are wanted. You are a high quality immigrant, as they would say. You are a high value immigrant simply by ratio of birthright. You are the ones that they have written specific laws to allow this to happen. So those can change. And with the way things are going, again, I would be surprised if by next year things aren't a lot more restrictive than they are now. So again, I keep telling people it's the process takes a while. It takes, you can't just get on a plane and in 6 weeks you're done. It's going to take you 6 months to 2 years. 6 months to 2 years, depending on where your finances are. Get started. If you realistically want to immigrate, you can always go back. There's nothing that's going to keep you from hopping on a plane, just putting your terrible past in the EU behind you and getting back off where you came from. Nothing will stop you. You're not renouncing your US citizenship. Most of the time, in almost all the cases that are on my list, the countries allow dual citizenship. Excuse me. You're foolish to not do it. Budget wise, how much money do you need? That's a good question. That's a fair question. Obviously, the answer to that question is the money, the more the merrier. The more money you have, the more assistance you have, the easier it will be for you to get where you need to be. Can you get to where you need to be with less money? You absolutely can. If you're willing to work, if you're willing to work and willing to grind it from, say, like month one or month two, then you should be able to make it with just a few $1,000s over your travel expenses, realistically. I would say that's a minimum. I would comfortably want to have at least 6 months of kind of medium level travel expenses, or I should say living expenses, plus, your transportation here. So realistically, how much is that? I'd say 9,000 euro. If you had 6 to 9,000 euro, and again, that's the budget for someone who is employable right away in either in their whatever occupation they got something lined up, they already have a job lined up, or they're willing to go to work right away. Even as I said, even on a service level blue collar job, you can make it. You can live on that kind of work, and you can make it work in that time frame. So what are you waiting for? There's no better time. It's only going to get worse. It's only going to get harder. I keep saying that. I've said that over and over and over again. There's no time like the present, but to face this properly in case I get Santa Claus as a sponsor this year. Let's see. This episode brought to you by Santa Claus, bringing children happiness for 18,000 years. What else is on my bullet list of destiny? Well, think about it. I mean, unless you're some kind of highly trained technical occupation, and if you are, chances are you can do that here. But my last point here is, well, if you're afraid I'm not going to be able to make it on a working person's wage or blue collar wage, let me ask you, what are you doing now? Are you making it where you're at right now on that wage? You're not. You're not making it. You need to have two jobs or three jobs. And your rent gets raised 10, 20, 30% every single year while your wages go up nothing. How long are you going to put up with that? How long are you going to put up with it? Realistically. Before you say, I'm going to make a plan and do something better for myself. Come on, guys. There's guys like me that are trying to help you. I have several different options available that cost little to no money. You can ask me questions. I can get a personalized response for the cost. You can get excuse me, you can get a personalized response for as little as €5 a cup of coffee. And things are slow right now, so you might be surprised by the quality of the response that you get. Ask me a question in the comments. Go ahead and I'm willing to help people. Like I said, I have time on my hands and I'm willing to share knowledge. I can't really get too specific with things that aren't about Finland, of course, but if I have the information, I'm happy to share with you. Investigate your options, get your documents in order, get your passport started, start saving your money, start learning your language. And in a year, 6 months to a year, you should be able to pop and lock your way out of the US and into making yourself a better future. And ladies, if there's any of you out there, of the 20 people that watch my show, if there's any ladies out there and you're listening to me, all the information that I've given for the men applies equally to you. If you're a young woman and you're just now out in the world getting your grind on, believe me, you won't have a nose left, and you still won't be any further left. You can grind away at your face till you've got nothing, metaphorically, of course. So, the same advice I'm giving you applies to yourselves as well. Come with the young men in your life. Come get together with your relatives, your friends. Do this as a journey, as a couple's journey, even if you're not related in terms of family, but you have the same ancestral background. Form a little group of people, a support group of, say, 5 or 6 or 7 of you that all have ancestry to the same countries and come together. That's a great idea. I just now thought of that. I should charge extra for that. But yeah, put it together a little travel group, a little that way you bring your little family with you. That's a great idea. You bring a little sport, a spouse or someone again, and you all have to have the same ancestry and be doing the applications at the same time. But yeah, you could put together a little community of 3 to 10 or whatever you got. You could rent a place together. It'd be awesome. It'd be a great way to do it. Even though the cost of living here is much more affordable, obviously. Like I said, I keep repeating that point too, and people don't believe it. But my whole flat here. One of these days, I'll do a little tour of my flat, but there's a lot of them on there on the channels already, but for 510 euros, I have a very comfortable existence here, just for the basic rent. 510 euros. That's that's like the price of a shared bedroom in most places in the U.S. now. Am I right? Seems like that's about what it is. It's ridiculous. Grown people have to work their butts off 60 hours a week and share a room with 6 other adults. It just blows the mind. It's ridiculous, beyond belief. Yeah, let's see what else can we go for today. Hopefully the sound is good. Looks like it. I'm watching the meter right now. It's at It's peaking at about 10 decibels. All the lighting has been changed around. All the audio has been changed around. Obviously, the video. So theoretically, everything should be fine. I want to get me my first guest in here, as I said, next week. We are going to be graced with the presence of a Finnish man born and bred, and I'm going to ask him some very tough questions. I am going to ask him about his perspective on immigration and what is there such a thing as a high quality immigrant versus a low quality immigrant and so on, and what those characteristics would be. So again, that's going to be interesting. He has requested, interestingly enough, even though I just got this all set up for us to do exactly that, he's requested to not appear on camera, but that's okay. Also, if you are an immigrant, I've been looking for a Ukrainian. I know there's some Ukrainians that have some good stories to tell, but I need, obviously, I don't have Ukrainian, so I need someone who speaks a little bit English at least to come on the show and tell their stories. But if you're a Russian immigrant or really the people I'm looking for are the ones that obviously are here to stay. I'd like to, hear your stories and put them on the channel and do those interviews. I was talking to some half Americans the other day too, and I think I might be able to get one or two of those come on the show one of these days. You can send me an email at fintegrationsociety@gmail.com with your questions or comments. You can post suggestions for the show in the comments below. And again, if you do have a question for me that I can answer for you that's generic enough to go public, I'll put it in the comments. Otherwise, email me. I'll get started and get yourself an action plan. You'll be surprised. It's quite motivating. You'll find yourself reinvigorated in your life when you have a purpose, and that is escaping your fate in the US. I hate to say it that way. I really do. But you can only be lied to for so long, whether it's a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a government that's lying to you. Think about it. Just realistically think about it. I can't tell what I'm looking at anymore. I have a monitor right in front of me and the camera and then a camera. So I'm gonna have to learn where to look here. I think there is probably where I want to be looking. So anyway, I would love to one day say to you, Tervetuloa Suomeen, which means welcome to Finland. But I hope you find your way to your home in Poland or Romania or Germany or wherever it is. But it's probably not going to be in the US, realistically. Think about it, young people, and help yourselves. Get out while you can. This year is going to be a difficult year for young people, especially. So-called election coming up. What are you going to do? You gonna pick a side? You gonna vote devil or super devil? Really? Are you really gonna do that to yourselves and people you love? Why would you do that? Don't. Voting is a waste of time in the US. But anyway, I think I've rambled on far enough and I've covered pretty much everything I thought I was going to. Mm, yeah, I think I did. So again, thank you so much for watching the show. I hope you enjoyed the time that you spent with me. And if you feel motivated, throw me a like or subscribe. I don't like notifications, quite frankly, so I subscribe to your channel now and again, and I just turn the notifications off. It doesn't bother me. If I want to watch their channel, I will. But that way it doesn't irritate you. And the likes don't cost you anything. So if you get anything useful out of one of my videos, I sure would appreciate that you throw me a like. You have a great day. Thank you very much for watching the Finntegration Society.